Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé, Tania and Syngin. Let's watch.
Tonight we're having dinner with my sister and her husband, and of course the baby. Hi. I'm the older sister. I raised my sister since she was really little. She's kind of jumped on past me.
Okay, we're hearing more data points pointing in the direction of codependency and or overfunctioning, in that she just said, I raised my younger sister. So, as I've been saying in previous videos, codependency often is born when you force a child to be over-responsible for other people. Essentially, what happens is the child is made to believe, or even just kind of literally told, that unless they grow up really fast and take care of either their other siblings or even the parents themselves, really horrible things are going to happen in the family. And it's your job, and you need to stay above those people because your role in this family and your self-esteem is through taking care of other people. So when you do that to children, when you parentify them, they develop, they mature in some ways very quickly. They become very responsible because they have to, for survival. But they actually, their development becomes arrested in certain ways, in that they still retain a lot of immaturity, a lot of insecurity, a lot of lack of connection with who they are and what they want. You know, part of the development of a child is exploring, who am I and what do I want? And when you force a child to grow up really fast, they skip over those stages, and they could be 35 years old and not really know who they are or what they want. And parentified people often have a lot of anger because they had to suppress that anger when they were young in order to survive in the family. Anyway, so I don't know if that's what she is referring to, but you know, she just said, I took care of my younger sister.
Already married, she already has a baby. Like, I'm happy for her and stuff, but it feels a little weird with her trying to give me advice.
I just think that you're gonna drive him away. I think you're gonna drive him away.
You think I'm gonna drive him away? Why do you think I would drive him away?
I literally call you a professional bitch.
What do you think I call you? You're angry bitch.
All right, so I don't know what this exactly means, but her younger sister is saying, you know, I literally call you a professional B word. And what does that mean? I don't know. That could just be sibling stuff here. And she's also saying, you're gonna push him away. Does that mean she's pushed other people away? We don't know her history, Tania, but she told Syngin that she decided that she was going to have kids regardless of, you know, she was going to have kids by 30, even if she didn't find someone to settle down with. She preferred to settle down with a partner, but she was going to have kids either way. I don't know, but there's a slight indication of a lot of relationships that didn't work out for her, and frustration. And you'll hear that from some people that by a certain age, they'll just be frustrated, be like, I don't think this is working. I don't think romance is working for me, but I want to have kids. And so I guess I'm just going to have kids on my own. Having said that, plenty of people they just have kids on their own, and it's not it's not evidence that they're failing at romance. Some people just like to have kids by themselves, and if someone else comes into their life, they're fine. Anyway, so she has some signs of that, and so there's that. Also, the sister, I think, is saying you have a track record of pushing people away from you because of the way you treat them, because of your B-word tendencies. What are those tendencies? Are those the micromanaging, controlling tendencies, or I don't know, conflictual tendencies? Maybe we'll find out.
But not to my husband.
Sometimes she seems as if she's such an adult now. And like, yeah, you're an adult, but you still have a lot to learn. Like, I still have years ahead of you.
So it's interesting. I don't know. I'm speculating a lot with her based on very little information. But so I don't know if I show this clip, but she's talking about how she was the one taking care of her. And now the younger sister, as Tania said, surpassed me, which is a way of thinking about the world, right? That you're in a race. There's a hierarchy to two adult sisters. And because she's married and she has kids. And for Tania, she's like, she surpassed me. Now she's above me. And now she's giving me advice about love and about that sort of thing. And that's seemingly uncomfortable to her. And she is, in her mind, really trying to shoehorn this idea in of, no, I'm still above you. I'm still above, you have a lot to learn. Let's rewind this and hear her tone.
Go away.
I literally call you a professional bitch.
What do you think I call you? You're angry bitch.
But not to my husband.
Sometimes she seems like as if she's such an adult now. And like, yeah, you're an adult, but you still have a lot to learn. Like, I still have years ahead of you.
I mean, just listen to that. Like, for me and my siblings, I have older and younger, because we weren't raised parentified. None of us think this way. None of us are just like, my little brother, if he were giving me advice about something, I wouldn't be like, hey, I'm older than you and you have a lot to learn, like you're not, like what's going on there? And that points to parents of her. We haven't seen the dad yet. We've met the mom. There wasn't really a lot of indication about the mom's personality. And a lot of times on the show, they just don't go into it. But I would suspect that, and again, the Tanias of the world do not wake up in the morning and decide to be this way. They were forced to be this way when they were young, and they retain that mindset into adulthood, and then we observe it and say like, whoa.
I don't know, like, he's not really comfortable with it. He's like, I just got here, so where are you going now?
I think it was a poor decision on her part. She made like a good point. This is their time where they're actually nesting, but you can't actually nest if you're still gonna leave. I just think the timing's poor and it's not fair to him.
So this is all based on the premise that the show often is based on, that the 90 days of 90 Day Fiancé is a time essentially to decide if you want to marry someone. When in reality, the 90 days, according to the law and according to most other people who go through the 90 days, the K-1 visa, they've already decided, because they've already been dating for a long time in person, that they want to get married. And the 90 days is 90 days to get married. It's a 90 days to plan the wedding and to, finalize the wedding. And a lot of people probably just get married at the beginning of the 90 days because it's like, let's give ourselves a little cushion here. So the sister is saying Tania is leaving for a month to learn about a craft of some sort, and that is taking away from their time to figure out if they want to get married. But like I said, they should have already figured it out. In fact, some people will say in the comments below who have been through the K-1 that you actually on the form have to say, we intend to get married. We've made that decision already. I think it's part of the premise for receiving the K-1 visa. You've already decided, and you just need 90 days. Essentially, the 90 days, if I understand right, is a visa to get married. The person is coming from another country. It allows them into the country because you need to be in person to get married, right? You don't need to, but it's easier that way. And so it's even in the paperwork, and some people will say in the comments below that these people might be committing some sort of fraud on the government, because clearly most people before the 90 days have not decided to get married. They're treating it like a trial period, but they had to have signed those forms saying they did intend to get married.
Are you having any 60-day wedding jitters?
I had wedding jitters on the plane over here.
What were they?
Just, like I said, I don't want to get married to get divorced, because 90 days is like nothing, it's...
Yeah, it is like nothing. How about just date for a lot longer? Usually, at least in my circle, you date for 3 to 5 years before you even get engaged. So yeah, 90 days isn't very long to see if you're compatible.
She's gone a month, that leaves us 5 weeks left.
How sure do you think we could be in the 90 days?
I honestly don't think we could even be 100% sure within these 90 days, We do have arguments, it's not what I call about stupid.
Yeah, that's rational. He's saying, I don't think this is enough time to figure it out. Yeah, so my hope is that they both say, yeah, you know what? It's probably not enough time, especially since we're fighting. let's not make any firm commitments in this 90 days, and let's just have a good time, and then we'll date some more, and then we'll make a decision later.
I think it like simple things like I don't sometimes think she totally listens to me when I have my opinion, and she just would fly by her opinion. That's something we need to work on, just the communication, understanding.
They have done.
So this is just so interesting to me because there are so many people who phrase things this way, where I would frame it in the way I've framed it in the past with regards to this couple, which has to do with codependency and underfunctioning and micromanaging and anxiety that results in communication issues, that results in opinion stubbornness. But people, not everyone, but a lot of people will focus on those things. You know, they'll say the same things, like, we have a communication problem. And after the, 500th couple that came into my office, and I said, what's your problem? And they're like, oh, communication. I just laugh on the inside. I was just like, that's literally every couple that, but I don't expect people to understand why they have a communication problem. But, think about if we just really analyze that phrase of like, we have a communication problem, literally everything you do that is together is communication, right? When you obviously talk to each other, but when you have sex, when you plan, when you ghost someone, when you stonewall, when you text, when you parent together, everything is mediated and communicated through communication. And so to say you have a communication problem would literally be like saying we have a relationship problem. And then another thing I'll hear people focus on is when, she's not open to my opinions. And that's getting closer, I think, to the core of the issue, but really far from it. The core of the issue, I think, I don't know, speculation, she has tremendous anxiety about other people screwing things up and is motivated from that anxious place, and then that hurts his feelings. He pushes back, and then they fight.
Long distance relationship, but I hope that they realize that when you get married, it's not always sunshine and daisies, and that they realize it's a lot of work, because when it comes to Tania, she definitely needs to be more flexible. It's a lot of the times her way or no way.
All right, we're hearing from her sister that she is rigid, inflexible, her way or no way. I don't know exactly what that means. Is that a data point in the controlling codependency, potentially? Or it could just be a sibling thing, who knows?
And I think that'll dampen the kindle, the flame there of the relationship.
Yeah.
Like my last piece of advice, don't let her try to down you with you should do this, and I think you should do it this way, and this.
Okay, so we are hearing from the sister a confirmation that Tania is potentially controlling, micromanaging, codependent. I don't know. Codependency requires me to actually know what's going on the inside of Tania, and she doesn't talk about that, so I don't know. But at the very least, she overfunctions. We see that we can identify overfunctioning from the outside. And so the sister absolutely would know Tania better than anyone else on the planet, probably. And she, her primary advice to Syngin is, don't let her micromanage you. Let's rewind this.
Will dampen the kindle, the flame there of the relationship.
Yeah.
Like my last piece of advice, don't let her try to down you with you should do this, and I think you should do it this way, and this is how I would do it, and like da-da-da-da-da, and just kind of sometimes you could bring people down with that.
All right, that's another component that the sister is pointing out. It's not just micromanaging, it's you're bringing people down, right? I think what the sister says is you can make people feel really bad about themselves. You can really ruin people's days by doing, it's not just slightly annoying, you're actually bringing them down. You're making them feel incompetent. You're making them feel like they don't matter, like they're complete idiots, like you don't believe in them, like you just think very negative thoughts about them, I think I've given the analogy of, imagine that you're at the gas pump and you're by yourself and you're filling up your car, and like multiple people are coming up to you and go, oh, so, you have to put it in, you have to put the nozzle into the opening there. You have to hold the thing. You have to keep an eye on this is where the readings are in terms of how much money and the gallons and everything. And you're like, yeah, okay. And then they go away, and then another person comes up and says, oh, no. Oh, so you need to make sure you really hold the handle really softly, and because, you got to be able to read it when it's overfilling, and you don't want to overfill it because, you really want to be careful about it. By the 1,000th time someone does that to you, you start to think, I must be an idiot. I'm clearly signaling some sort of idiocy to the rest of the world because everyone feels like they have to solve my problems, like otherwise, why would everyone be doing this to me? When you have a spouse that is continually micromanaging you, or a mother or a father or someone, it just gives you this impression like, oh, I must be an idiot. I'm being treated like I'm an idiot. I must be an idiot, And so the sister is pointing that out. Now, again, micromanagers, overfunctioners, codependent people, they don't decide to be that way. It emerges out of trauma. If Tania was in charge of her younger sister, that usually means that Tania was mistreated. To make a child responsible for another child is potentially a form of child abuse. Can you give an older child some responsibilities like babysitting or this sort of thing? Absolutely, but from the sound of it, it sounds like she was given way too much responsibility. Like she had to be a parent. She had to be like an adult when she was 10, 12 years old.
Kind of perspective a little bit, yeah. So, but just, try to remind her and rein her in on that a little bit. Help me out there.
So it's also possible that the younger sister has observed past relationships of Tania's and has witnessed this overfunctioning and codependency as well, and is predicting that will be a flashpoint. It absolutely is a flashpoint.
You can appreciate my guidance. You can appreciate my guidance and my different way of thinking.
But I kind of feel like sometimes I don't need to do your guidance at all. I still feel what I'm doing is the right way, but you would say it's not the way you want to do it.
So instead of Tania just being like, yeah, sometimes I get a little anxious and I get a little controlling, I do try to rein that in. Instead of saying that, she just turns to her, husband / son boy and says, or you can just do what I tell you to do. That's essentially what she said. Let's rewind that.
Yeah, so, but just, try to remind her and rein her in on that a little bit. Help me out there.
Or you can appreciate my guidance. You can appreciate my guidance and my different way of thinking.
So there's nothing wrong with saying, I would like you to appreciate my way of thinking. All right, that's fine. You can share your way of thinking without micromanaging and controlling and putting other people down.
I kind of feel like sometimes I don't need to do your guidance at all. I still feel what I'm doing is the right way, but you would say it's not the way you want to do it, so you would call it the wrong way.
That is one of my strengths, and you have to learn to appreciate that.
Wow. I mean, it's interesting. This is like I don't know, but if she does have codependency, well, what would I say? If I was teaching a class on codependency, I would show them this clip. I would show them this whole relationship, honestly, up until this point. Maybe it gets worse as times before. And I would say, if you saw this, these are 50 red flags for codependency. Again, as I've said before, codependency is anxiety-based. You are terrified. And when you're terrified of someone else screwing things up for everyone, there's this deep doom that the codependent will feel of, unless I control or unless I manage someone else, is the umbrella codependency. Unless I manage someone else, very, very terrible things are going to happen. And when you parentify a child who's 10 years old to take care of a 5-year-old sister, the 10-year-old knows that the world is very scary and doesn't really understand even what dangers are out there. 10-year-olds shouldn't be expected to understand the consequences for making mistakes, right? That's why we help them. That's why we parent them. That's why we protect them. That's why we, tell them what to do and take responsibility ourselves as parents. But when you put that on a child, The 10-year-old knows the world is dangerous. They know that bad things might happen, but they don't exactly know what would happen. And so the child carries around with them just this general doom if they take their hands off the wheel and let someone else drive, particularly the person of concern. And so it's anxiety, but it's terror. And so there are three different ways of coping with that terror. One is to control. It's like, you can't do it because I'm terrified of letting you drive the car, and so I'm just going to drive the car for you, even though it's your car. The other way of doing it is to be very helpful, and is to protect them. Like to use the car analogy, it would be, hey honey, let me drive to the store for you, or hey honey, let me get a job for you, and I'll drive the car. You can just stay home, using the car anxiety analogy. But to the controlling codependent, they control. To the helpful codependent, they will just be extremely accommodating and helpful and enabling. To the chameleon codependent, this is my typology, they will become as underfunctioning as the underfunctioner. It's sort of like if you can't beat them, join them mentality. I will validate you and enable you by becoming like you. It's sort of complicated. Listen to my deep dive on it. But so it's not because they want to be this way. Codependents do not want to be codependent. They are compelled from anxiety that they incurred when they were young and traumas. But I just want to point out, let's rewind this again. Just as she's being challenged on this, she essentially is turning to him and say, you will. So what could be happening inside of her, so I don't know about her, but if she were codependent, the sister is threatening her coping schema. She has a plan, a way of coping with her anxiety, and that is control. And a big part of the control is the establishment of the premise that I know what I'm doing and you don't know what you're doing, and you will listen to me. Controlling codependents need that rule to be established. The sister is challenging everything right now. She is threatening all of the rules that Tania has been trying to establish. And so instead of just being, agree to disagree, she has to clamp down on this. She has to establish, it's sort of be like a teacher in a classroom and some rando, adult walks in and says, you don't have to sit in that chair. You can do whatever you can be anywhere you want in this classroom. And then the adult leaves. And the kids start looking at each other and being like, really? You mean we can just sort of roam around the classroom as often as we want? The teacher would probably, especially if they notice some heads turning, would immediately say, no. Remember, the rules are in your seat until I say it's okay to, you can raise your hand and go to the bathroom or whatever. So the sister is walking into this and going like, all the rules are off. And that compels her to say, no. And she doesn't look to the sister, she looks to him and says, do not listen to her. I am still in control. I think that's what's happening. Let's rewind this.
It's the right way, but you would say it's not the way you want to do it, so you would call it the wrong way.
That is one of my strengths, and you have to learn to appreciate that. I'm talking to him now. That is one of my strengths, and I need you to be able to appreciate that in me instead of feeling challenged by me. As someone I don't
sometimes feel challenged by you, I feel pressured by you.
He's doing a really good job, actually. He could be doing a better job. I've pointed that out before, but he could be doing so much worse. We've seen other people in this situation, like Asuelu, for example. Think about the way he reacted to overfunctioning, that he would shut down, he would lock himself in a bedroom and act like a child. Remember that when his own son was having a birthday party and he locked himself in the bedroom like a child? So Syngin is not doing that. He's not, playing his part in the overfunctioning, underfunctioning dynamic. He's just like, look, I respect your opinion, but it's not opinions. You're pressuring me. So they could obviously go to couples therapy and get help with this, but on the scale of things, he's doing pretty good. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. Maybe he's a complete underfunctioner and a complete, train wreck, and I could see that happening. And if y'all know that, you might be yelling at the screen right now, like, you don't understand, he's a complete doofus. We haven't seen that yet. I haven't seen that yet. So I'm just going off what I've seen. And the way that she talks to him is not justified at this point. But you hear her, she's like, that's a strength of mine, and you have to respect that. So if I were there, I'd be like, oh, tell me more. What do you mean by strength? You know, what is that strength? Because I'm guessing there's a part of her self-esteem, which is very true for codependent people and overfunctioners. Their self-esteem is based on being helpful, on knowing how to do things, on being competent at things. And I'd say, great, you know, that is fantastic. You're independent, you're helpful. How can you manifest that in a way that is actually helpful for Syngin? Because what I'm hearing from him, it's not helpful to him. It's just aggravating him. So how can you capitalize on your strengths while not pushing him away?
So I think it's something that you need to learn to just let me be and then learn from my own mistakes or whatever happens.
But that's the thing, it's so many mistakes.
It's just classic. And he's even using the phrases, you need to let me learn from my own mistakes. And that's what I would be telling the two of them. You have to let him learn from his own mistakes. He's a grown man. It's his life. You can offer help, but you can't force help.
And like,
I call bull.
And sometimes mistakes is the only way that you're gonna learn. Sometimes, for example,
But he doesn't
that
learn.
famous quote, listen,
Who's
but
it
that
doesn't
famous
learn?
quote
That's-
though,
So just classic codependency. I don't know if she suffers from it, but the presentation is a classic presentation. He's asking her, please let me learn from my own mistakes. Like, I'm just trying to imagine if I had to ask my wife that. Please stop micromanaging everything I do so I can please learn from my own mistakes. Like, it's such a ridiculous request, right? Because of course, or the reverse, if I didn't let my wife, quote unquote, learn from her own mistakes, and even the phrasing is apparent, it's such a weird way of looking at things. Like, I don't think about I don't allow my wife to learn from her own mistakes. I just let her be a human adult with her own autonomy. You know what I mean? But anyway, he's like, let me learn from my mistakes. And then she says, but he never does. He never learns from his mistakes. So just think about that belief that's there for her. She believes he never learns from his mistakes, ever. In the history of Syngin's life, he's never learned from a mistake. Not likely. Not likely. But that is the fuel. That's the assumption. Codependent people assume that you cannot do things on your own. The person of concern, the person they're enmeshed with, you are inherently incapable, and you will never be capable. You will never, ever learn. If he was a child, he would believe it because she would be overpowering him. But he's a grown man, and I guess raised well enough, or raised in a way that didn't fit well with a codependent, where he's just like, I know she believes that I'm a complete doofus, but I know that I'm not. I know that I'm impulsive. I know that I sometimes make mistakes, but I know that I'm not what she thinks that I am. And it's not working out. Now, maybe with that, she can adjust. I'm not seeing any signs of that adjustment yet, though. But, let's give her some time. Let's hope.
as like the success, you're only gonna get success through failure, or like you're only gonna learn through failing, or whatever that expression is, or whatever. Exactly that right there.
Yeah, there's gonna be different pages and how you view things, but just working as a team is really actually the key to everything.
All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.